totally able to grieve and bear witness, and all is well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. That is a different consciousness. And
Yeah.
it doesn't say she didn't grieve the loss of her husband and children and friends. However, at the same time, she was in that place of trusting in
Yes.
what was happening. And that's, I'll tell a personal story. I remember I was in a difficult circumstance with a colleague, and he was quite kind of angry at me, yelling at me about something. And I started to cry, and which was like, oh boy, I can, get her kind of thing. And something inside of me spoke and said, don't you dare think I'm diminished because I'm crying, because it took years in therapy to be able to feel what I'm feeling and be courageous enough and strong enough to bring forward these emotions. And it's like, so, and John, I will tell you, there was a weird kind of joy in being so alive that I could feel my sadness in that moment and even my fear. It's so the joy of being alive. So
Yes.
yeah, I wasn't going like whoop de doo, he's attacking me, but it was like, oh my gosh, I'm alive and I can respond and even stand up for my response. So I'm not happy looking at people in LA right now, but the joy in it is like I can feel my feelings. I can send them love. I can send them support. I can send money to the people taking care of the animals because that's always where I'm sort of drawn. And I can access the energies of all these guides that are there helping and holding these people who are going through this horror that where Mother Earth is showing us the way you're living doesn't work anymore.
Mm. Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does. And like that freedom of expression thing, as you talk about it there, that's it. It's once you have the freedom to be who you are going to be at that in that moment, at that now moment, right? And not suppress, not hold it down. Um, and certainly I kind of think in terms of what you were describing with was it Julian of Norwich?
Julian, Julian of
Julian.
Norwich.
Ju
Yeah,
Julian.
Julian, I think. Julian of
Right,
Norwich.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in a way, scientifically these days they talk about, quantumly entangling with, your energy with certain things. And
Right.
what she was smart enough, even though, clearly nobody was going around the streets of Norwich talking about quantum entanglement, but the fact is that when you get drawn into the density, you are adding your energy to the density.
That's right.
When you can rise above that and see an alternative way where you can hold that high frequency, you are quantumly entangling with high frequency, which is helping to raise everyone and
That's right.
everything at the
That's
same
right.
time, which is where the power of community comes in. This is
Yes.
what, say, Lynn McTaggart's doing in terms of the peace movement, right?
That's right.
Pulling
That's
together
right.
thousands of people around the world to join together into meditation, to imagine peace as if it already has happened, as
That's
if it's
right. That's
already in place. A
that's
bit
right.
like those doctors were doing around that lady when they were getting
That's
rid of
right.
that cancer in 2 minutes
That's right.
45 seconds,
That's
right?
right. That's right. That's right. And as you say that, it kind of goes back a little bit to our beginning conversation about woundedness and healing. That woman was able to receive the healing because of her state of consciousness being receptive to what they were doing. I think of the wonderful old book by Thich Nhat Hanh, Being Peace, where he said, if you want to bring forth peace, become peace. And
Yeah.
so he was talking about the inner work, the meditation, the healing work, etc. Um, I can't remember if did I ever tell you this before when I was, in college and going to the Vietnam War protests. Um, there was a group of Quakers who would show up, and I can't say the whole thing to put it out, but they were a riot because they held this banner that said, fighting for peace is like, let's say, fornicating for chastity.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, if I'm angry and rageful and hate filled and and darn it, I'm gonna like kill you to bring forth peace. If I make something the enemy and I'm like gonna kill it, that doesn't really promote peace. So I have to do my work to not hate Trump, for example,
Hmm.
because if I
Hmm.
hate him, I'm just colluding with all the energies that are maintaining separation and division. So, what's the work I have to do? You know, same thing with looking at the people in the Los Angeles fires. If I start drawing them into my body in a way that debilitates me because I'm overwhelmed and terrified and sick with grief, then I'm joining that. But if I can lift to this place of absolutely loving them and just sending love and sending love and sending support, and you are part of us and you are a wounded part of our body, and I'm sending this love to you. And that doesn't mean I'm not feeling fear, grief, or whatever, but my focus is on that elevated place. And then I'll get the download, send $100 to the people in Pasadena taking care of the animals. There was this elderly man wandering around the street. Contact the Alzheimer's Association there. Has any people? What's happening with the people like that? So it's a whole different. And there's joy in being able. It's not like necessarily bubbly happiness, but there's this grounded joy that I think is the sister of peacefulness.
Mm.
And that's what the where the elevation is taking us.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's important. And it is a case of understanding that everybody's here playing their roles
Yes,
the way it's supposed to be, right? So
yes,
even those that are reflecting dark roles are
yes,
still no less worthy of love, as you say, to your point. There's no, everybody's here serving a divine purpose.
yes, yes.
And, we have choices. We have choices about how we reflect that and how we grow and how that we internalize that. We
Hmm.
have a fantastic opportunity coming up to rise above the noise, to understand this is not happening to us, it's happening for us.
For us, as you say, yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's where it's taking us is a world of unspeakable beauty. And it's
And that's where the divine child lives. You know, that if we can support one another in doing the healing work around the wounds
mm,
and different healing modalities for different people and at different times, reclaiming that innocent child
hmm
that is so much attuned to the divine child, then no matter what, we're in the world of unspeakable beauty. And as we live there more and more, that's what helps all of it to elevate. You know, I
mm,
did you see, going back to the fires for a moment, there were this uh, YouTube thing I saw, this interview with this woman who lost everything. She's turning 90 this month. And they interviewed her because the way she responded was, uh, you know what? I needed to let go of all those things. Excuse me. Um, I don't need two full closets of clothes. It's time to start anew.
mm.
Let's see what's happening next. 90 years old. And her response, and I'm sure she felt sad and lost stuff, but her energy was, okay, what's the next adventure?
Yeah, I know that. And
Oh,
isn't that a
oh,
wonderful kind of way to look at things,
oh
and
my
I, and I,
gosh.
and I think I mentioned before about that lady I sat alongside on a flight from Houston to Los Angeles once, and she was describing how her and her husband had lost their home going back to the 1950s and 60s.
Right, right.
And she said it was the greatest thing that ever happened to them because it freed them up. and after that they traveled the world, they did this, they did that, and they would never have done it. Of course, you don't look at your house that's been ripped out of the ground with sheer joy, but she realized that this is, there's a new beginning in everything. There's no accidents here. I don't know, but yeah, you feel for so many people. I used to live in Pasadena for a few years. I know a lot of people there. I used to do some work as a volunteer director at one of the credit unions there that has a lot of lending kind of going out into that community, a big community in Pasadena. So I've been in touch with my uh, friend there who's the CEO of the credit union and the board of directors, and it's like see how they're in shell shock, basically. I've got to say and it's understandable. But yeah, they will recover. They will get through this, and it'll be, I'm going out there myself in March to sort of just see how things are. And
Oh, John, that's great. And again, that's such a good example, your response, because I know when people, and I've alluded to this before, when people talk about elevation and the eagle's perch, that can be misconstrued as a disconnect, not caring, oh, well, they signed up for this, so, oh, well. That's not it at all, because you have a big perspective, and then that love comes out, and then out of that you discover, not from figuring it out here, but arising from that heart,
mm,
that beautiful eagle who can see and then see, where am I called to bring forth my love,
yes,
my caring, my tending. So I always want to remind people, we're not talking about a spiritual bypass. We're talking, in fact, even with the people, that elderly woman, I'm sure she was feeling her feelings, and she needs to be able to do that. And even as she's feeling her feelings, there's also this awareness that there's something else also now opening to happen. So you don't squash the feelings, you welcome them. But again, if healthy emotion, energy in motion, it comes in and it moves, and it
mm,
comes in and it moves. And then you're on the perch going, what is love? What is love inviting me into here? And
mm,
you're saying, you're being invited to go back, check and see how things are, perhaps be with some of your former colleagues who were in shell shock, providing, because John, and you know this, even if you don't say anything to them about the things that you know now, because
yeah,
they can't receive it, your presence will radiate it. There's something that was ascribed to Francis of Assisi, although we don't know if he really said it, where he said, preach the gospel always, if necessary, use words.
yes. I love that.
Isn't that great? And
Yeah.
and and frankly, I think the more clear you get, the fewer words you need,
Mm,
because words can get in the way. So
mm,
I could see you being with them, and just the way that you have opened yourself to this wisdom and knowing, and the playful child and all of it, your compassion, your humor, all of it, there could be comfort just in their being with you, even if you don't ever try to convey the perch that you're on.
yeah.
If that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned Francis of Assisi because only a couple of hours ago I was responding to an email from one of our community, Erasmia, she was born in Greece during the Second World War, but she was over here over in America actually as a nuclear engineer, retired, but yeah, she's kind of part of our community, and she sent me some details on Francis of Assisi. And I wasn't that familiar with Francis of Assisi, but I am now because it's fascinating. So I said, thank you for sharing with me. But it was I actually just emailed her today, and she emailed me back just before our call, just to because I'm including part of something that she sent to me today, including that on the newsletter for the weekend
Boy,
because
we've had all these synchronicities,
I
the,
know.
the
And
tarot cards,
Francis of
Francis.
Assisi is also on the newsletter.
Yeah, I
It's
love
already
it.
there. It's already in place. So yeah. So we got this going on. We got Francis of
Yeah.
Assisi. We've got, because
Yeah.
I was confessing that I do talk to plants, trees, and animals when I'm out and about with the dog. And I said it was good to read, right, that it's not me who needs to go and get some help.
No, in fact, when I was returning to Christianity, sort of, however I do that, it was so wonderful to find him because he spoke to the animals spoke to him. And by the way, the translation of gospel is good news. And the mystical heart of the good news is we and God are one.
Mm.
That's the deepest, deepest, deepest heart of all of it, that all the institution stuff can cover over. Um, but that's why people love him, and you don't have to be on his path to love him. I mean, he really modeled for us Westerners this love of nature, and um, I think we might be coming to the end because I have a little squeaky
Oh,
one.
Annie. Hello, Annie. How you
She's
doing?
we're starting to get the little squeaks, which means that somebody either needs water, a pee, or a cookie. So
Yes.
is
Yes.
that
Well,
what you're saying?
I'll be starting to squeak a bit myself soon. So,
Well, John, this was delightful. We definitely got to do some good rambling.
oh yeah. So I really enjoyed this, as always, Rue. I really,
Great
really
fun, great
appreciate it.
fun.
So, and a quick thank you to the community as well for tuning in. As ever, we are very open to any suggestions, any questions, anything you want to talk about, any comments, anything. John Drew at elevatedplanet.life. I can make sure anything for Ruah gets to Ruah, and any future subjects come our way. So wonderful. You go and
Great.
release Annie gets you gone back out into the wild. See what else she's got to do.
My backyard. Yeah. Yeah. It's 13 degrees out there. So let's just say that the scooting out and in is fast.
It
Take
would
care,
be
my
for me
friend.
too.
Bye,
It would be for me
yeah.
too. I'd be there with her.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.